I would like to welcome our panelists for the second round, How to Make Europe Fit for Sustainable Living. Can you please welcome Mrs. Monika Hohlmeier, Member of the European Parliament. Please join me on the stage. Anne-Katharina Weidenbach. She is part of the Cabinet Commissioner for Kadri Simpson on Energy and specialized in energy efficiency. Cédric Janssens, Secretary General of Glass Fiber Europe, and Bertrand Caz, Secretary General of Glass for Europe. Please join me on the stage. Pick your preferred seat. A warm round of applause for our four panelists. Yes, absolutely. Now, I'd like to start with you, Bertrand, actually, just to try and get a sense of glass again, in the context of the European Green Deal. What is glass doing to make the objectives of the European Green Deal actually happen?
Well, good evening, everyone. I think we've already heard a lot about the contribution of glass to circularity. That's part of the Green Deal, and it's not the smallest part, so it's already one we can be quite proud of. But of course, you're right, there's not only that. I'll start with buildings, because I also represent the flat glass industry that mostly goes into buildings. But if you think of all the glass and glazing, just two facts. Studies tend to show that about 1/3 of the energy losses in buildings, they come from windows and doors. Well, the reality is we can easily cut that energy loss with the energy efficient glazing that we have nowadays. To the extent that studies show we could easily cut by 37% CO2 emissions from buildings just using energy efficient coated glass, which are readily available nowadays. And yes, there will be new technologies, and there are other technologies, so actually that number could be much higher in terms of cutting CO2 emissions from buildings. As we talk about buildings, we should also mention the contribution of glass wool, even though it's not part of the flat glass industry, we are to mention it. One element, taxonomy, sustainable finance, this contribution of the glass industry to the mitigation of climate change, and that's already recognized in the taxonomy, so that's an important point. But yet again, there's not only that, there's automotive. I won't talk about it. There's solar energy. The previous speaker from the Commission mentioned it. Glass plays a key role in solar energy. So that's just a glimpse, but there are others. I'm sure my colleague will want to mention them.
Yeah, because we always have these different applications. So you're representing the glass fiber sector. How is glass fiber contributing to the objectives of the European Green Deal?
Thank you, Jean-Paul, and good evening, everyone. So glass fiber, maybe you are not all familiar with this sector. So it's the glass fiber is the cornerstone of the reinforced composites and technical textiles. So in short, we are using glass fiber to reinforce plastics and resins in different applications to make them more durable, stronger, and lighter. So when you look into specific applications, a lot of them are related directly to the Green Deal and contributing to the objective. So I'm going to take the example of three main segments: the energy, which is quite fashion nowadays, the building, construction, and transport. So in energy, one of our iconic products are the wind blades. So you have glass reinforcements that are part of the wind turbine with those large wind blades that produce renewable energy and that are more and more efficient. But we are also present in photovoltaic, in the backing framing of the photovoltaic, or for hydrogen, the tanks for storage of hydrogen. We are present there as well. For transport, it's primarily about reducing the weight of vehicles. Not only conventional vehicles to reduce their their energy consumption and CO2 emissions, but as well in aircrafts and other vehicles. For electric vehicles, you can actually increase the mileage and make the electric vehicle more attractive because it's lighter. So this is an additional contribution. The last one I'm going to mention is building and construction. There it's really about durability. You can use glass fibers to reinforce and make cement lighter. It is used as well to make roads more durable, to extend their lifetime, or water pipes. So many applications that are contributing today to the Green Deal and in the future, because there is a lot of research and development, and
And glass does not break.
And and there is more to come, and that's the reason why we believe that we are indeed a vital material for the Green Deal.
So many different applications for glass, some known, some maybe less known. Monika, you've heard a lot already from the different glass sectors, and on the European Green Deal. You're working also in the Budget Committee in the European Parliament, and together with the Next Generation EU Recovery Instrument, 30% of the EU budget will be spent to fight climate change over 2021-2027. So do you think that's enough to meet this climate neutrality target, and what role do you see glass playing in that context?
Now it works. First, I don't like very much these percentages, because when I see the special report of the European Court of Auditors discussing the percentages that the Commission believed that they have spent on climate change, and I have to say there is a difference of billions in the estimation, because it always depends on the approach. For me, the most important is that we are really supporting our flagship programs, and that we are really realizing in our possibilities that we have, that from the budget, a lot of money is spent for new technologies, for innovation, for example, supporting the energy efficiency of buildings, whatever. Let's start with the flagship program. That's Horizon, the research program, an excellent program, or the European Research Council programs, or European Innovation Council programs, where you find a lot of new technologies, really perfect ideas, but I have a problem with this. First, I have the problem that the money is not enough. Let's be frank. We have a lot of money in the cohesion. We have a lot of money in NGU, but we are not spending enough for research and innovation. We have excellent programs from the European Partnership on Clean Hydrogen, on the BAT4U, European Partnership for an Industrial Battery Value Chain. We have European Partnership for Clean Energy Transition. We have a space program that is excellently really contributing and could even do more. We have a lot of programs in the area under Erasmus. We have in the NGEU, we have 37% minimum target for spending on climate objectives, EU-wide renovation wave to make private homes and public buildings more energy efficient, green and digital technology is therein, developing zero-emission large aircraft and marine vessels like ships and tankers, improving waste management and kickstarting the circular economy from plastics and textiles to batteries and vehicles, and we have a lot of other initiatives. But I'm coming from the bad side of life, not only from the budgetary side, I'm coming from budgetary control. This is the bad side of life. In the budgetary control, we are always looking where we are not efficient. And let's be frank, all the research and innovation programs are always the programs that are the first ones to be cut. They're the easiest ones to be cut. If you have a Ukrainian crisis because of the Russian war against Ukraine, what is the first thing? A lot of innovative ideas of the Commission to stop some spending in the research area. The Parliament now is producing a report on where it's done by the colleagues of the different political groups, because, for example, in one area of research at the moment, Commission is hampering a program of 3 billion euro in the European Innovation Council, because of possible reputational risks for the European Union. There are 160 startups behind it, and there was an assessment of now 2 years, but we need some money for some other spendings. And it's easier to take it from your research and innovation. So may I be frank, from the budgetary control point of view, the research area and innovation area of the European Union is one of the best ones in the world. And we really can be proud of. And there are brilliant ideas from companies, from universities, from other research institutions. But they need money. And I don't fear any reputational risk. If we wouldn't have had our vaccines from Europe, we wouldn't have been able to tackle the problems of the corona crisis. It was our European Research Council that gave the grants to the relevant companies, because member states didn't do it in this way. It was the European Union where we really had found the financial means to give support to these kinds of ideas. What I'm really asking for in this area is no cuts for research and innovation, more money in research and innovation, even forcing member states to give more money from cohesion, to give more money from NGU, from RRF money, into research and innovation, into the climate change issues, supporting circular economy and so on, and not only having small-sized national programs. We looked into the RRF program at the moment. We are in the middle of this energy crisis, and we thought perhaps there are cross-border projects in this huge amount of 750 billion. So it's 750 billion. There must be a cross-border project. Slide error. We have only national projects. We have no cross-border projects in the RRF at the moment. ECA was looking into it. You being Court of Auditors, I say I'm coming from the bad side of life. Just saying, what can we do better with the money that we have? And what we can really do better is, if we have identified European goals, not to hamper us with national proudness or whatever. If Saint-Gobain speaks about circular economy, you are not interested in national solutions. You are interested in European solutions. So if we want to create European solutions, then there is really a need to act together. If we need a European energy market, then we should have interconnectors, then we should have cross-border projects in the digitalization, and so on and so on. I'm just criticizing. We have the ideas, we have the capacity, we have people that are able, experts, entrepreneurs, but sometimes we are hampering us. And only last wording, where I'm a little bit critical, is on the one side, we are in the European Union, we are putting our foot on the gas and saying, we want to be competitive and so on. At the same time, we are having the foot on the brake, because we are creating so many regulations that at the end, we are not controlling at the moment regulations if they really fit to the time in which we are. And there I'm really critical. We have to look into all these supply chain legislations and so on, to look into it if it really this further bureaucratic burden, and again reporting. I'm a member of a supervisory board. Listen, we are only listening to reports. At the end, I'm looking into it. What is the company doing? What is really done in a company to contribute to the challenges of climate change? So I would ask to have less restrictions, but more going into the projects, more contributing, that really companies feel invited in the European Union.
You're putting the accent on the on the applications very much. It's not just about the money. If the money has to go anywhere, it should really continue supporting innovation and the entrepreneurial spirit. If I can go then to Anne-Katharina, if you could then just try and comment back onto the application side. I mean, we've heard how glass can contribute to sustainable buildings, to renewables as well. You're working in the Energy Commissioner's Cabinet. What kind of actions do you have in this area, and how do you see glass contributing?
Yes, thanks a lot also for inviting me and for having me here. I worked before in DG ENER, also as a policy officer in energy efficiency, and what we, maybe also catching up what Ms. Hohlmeier said, about how much public funding can you raise. So all what we are doing is, public money will never be enough. So what we do is creating a framework, a legal framework, which gives certainty to companies, for example, in the glass sector. It's to make investment decisions, which means going back to the Fit for 55 package, setting ambitious targets with 9% of energy efficiency, and also specific requirements for example, the building sector. And now with REPowerEU increasing existing or proposed targets, but also requiring the massive deployment of renewables, for example, or heat pumps. And there, I think you can see it as a burden, but what we see more is by being ambitious, you know what you do. For example, when you look at building renovation, that's where we need the glass sector, definitely. Be it regarding the requirements for new buildings, you know better than me that we are aiming at zero-emission buildings as from 2030, and a big and important part of it is the window, you just mentioned it. But it's not only about new buildings, but also in renovations. Yes, the Commission proposed to have that the golden standard, the minimum energy performance requirements, but also, I mean, realistically, what people are doing is, as a first step, to replace a window where you can already achieve a lot of energy savings, and where also financing programs can be developed. So, and in this regard, I really think that this is one angle to look at the glass sector, or the importance of the glass sector in the clean energy transition. But also, I think what was also mentioned before, it was about the recycling. The industry sector, and there also the glass or energy intense, which is energy intense industry, is responsible for 32% of final energy consumption in the EU, and half of it, at least up to 2021, depending on fossil fuels from Russia. And that's where also REPowerEU now kicks in. And I think there, what was already mentioned is that energy efficiency, fuel substitution, but also, let's say, the green hydrogen, there is a lot of potential. And in REPowerEU, we assess that 32 BCM can be reduced by REPowerEU from gas consumption by 2030, and out of that, 22 BCM of savings can be achieved in the energy-intense industry, including the glass industry. So, and I think by giving a clear targets and clear requirements, not only targets to the industry, but also to the consumer, to financial institutions, then I think we can make it that we don't care how many % of RF is dedicated to energy efficiency, for example. It will never be enough if we do not convince consumers and financial institutions, banks, to make available private financing, and that we convince people that it pays off to follow the energy efficiency path. And there, as said, glass will be an important sector.
Okay, so you outlined some ambitious targets in buildings, especially in renovation. Bertrand, maybe a quick reaction. Is this transition going fast enough? Is the industry even able? Does it have the capacity to respond to that kind of ambition?
Well, it's definitely not fast enough, as we see how climate change is evolving quickly. But I think my reaction to what I've just heard, if you allow me to use the Olympic motto, I would say faster, stronger, higher. That's what we need to deliver on energy efficiency. That's what we need to deliver on building renovation and also on renewables. And I hear about ambitions. I hear about financing. The higher, faster, stronger also applies there. But it's not only about ambitions. We need very concrete measures for things to happen. Otherwise, it does not happen. And here, I want to emphasize the importance of a very strong, robust reform of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. We know it's under discussion in the Council. Minimum energy performance requirements are fundamentally important. I want to thank the Commission for proposing them, and I really count on the Commission's support to continue defending it in the Council. I know it's not easy, but we need it so that things and change happens.
Thank you. We're doing all of this in a very particular context of an energy crisis, so it's difficult to sort of completely ignore this important point. Monika, could you just give us then one lesson that you have learned from this energy crisis? Because we always need to learn a lesson in order to help us move forwards for the future. What would be that one lesson that you have learned from this situation?
Now, from the energy crisis situation, I would take two things. We learned on the negative side, we have to always to diversify our sources. So it is really, we discussed this as Parliament since 2011, to be frank. We discussed pandemic situations and we discussed kind of crisis situations. And we were already warning quite early that we need to have an EU production in certain areas, that we need a kind of storage in certain areas, and that we have to diversify our sources, not to be dependent on one state or on one, like China or Russia, because it always can happen that one partner is failing, and then you have no partner anymore if you are largely depending on this partner. So, and we have to realize that we have a lot of autocratic states, and not only democratic states. So we really have to diversify our sources. On the positive side, to be taken out of this crisis, take the behavior of our industry in the different member states, and even of the normal consumer. The last statistics of Germany of saving energy was that the private households were saving 37% in 1 year now, and that the industry was saving 25%. So you see how the behavior is changing. This makes me a little bit more courageous, not only a little bit more courageous. My wish is not only the standardization, this is wish of industry. We have really to, if I understand yourself that you want to have a lot for the industry of standardization, but let me be frank, in the energy efficiency of buildings, yes, we can do a lot, I'm absolutely sure. But if you see the accounting of a normal household, having a house, earning at the moment and already paying a lot for the energy bills, even if we give a lot of money, all the member states are giving a lot of money, then at the end, all these households need a lot of support, financial support, and the products must be available and must be affordable. Because if you have at the moment, for example, in Germany, to pay for the new windows, you're waiting at the moment 10 months, to be frank. First you're waiting 10 months, and then afterwards you have to pay for a household a lot of money, not less than 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 euro. This is not affordable for everybody. So we have to think in normal dimensions. So we have to give the consumers either a kind of possibility to act, because if they are overcrowded, or everybody wants to have something from them, so we have to take them with us, and we have to give them the chance to act. This is the thing that I would like to say. We cannot only think in financial market systems. You have sometimes just normal consumers, just normal people having a normal income. So this is, our policies must be made for normal people.
So diversification and empowering consumers. In the context of the energy crisis, the Commission and the European Union, rightly so, are doubling down on their climate ambitions. What is your lesson learnt from this energy crisis?
I think I would agree with you that we must not do the mistake again to rely too much on one good, on one partner, on one contract partner. But what I learned even more is that structural changes are needed, and that we must not wait until we have no other choice in doing so. So we need structural changes, and that, for example, energy efficiency and renewables, they are the ways to go. Of course, we need to support households in the next months. I guess there's no other way, but we must not do again the mistake to establish now fuel substitutions, which we will not turn back again. For example, LNG is important, but we need to do the structural change now, and that's let's say the lesson learned. And more important, it's possible when you see what is going on now, how many important decisions are taken, agreed among all member states within a very short time frame. It's possible, and I don't know why it shouldn't be possible to do the same for energy efficiency, for example, in buildings or in other sectors.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. If I then turn to the industry, or back to the industry, Cédric, from your perspective, what is your lesson learned, and maybe also to help us understand the impacts also for the industry in all of this?
The lesson I learned, but I can hear that this was something that was already felt some years ago, was this dependency on energy, and the fact that, I mean, today the industry is really struggling with the supply of energy, because there are uncertainties. I mean, when we read the reports that have been done and the press, we can read that there are uncertainties. Maybe not this winter, but what will be about the next. And when you are when you have a plant that is running 24/7 and that cannot be stopped, it's really a concern. It's a concern for us. It's a concern for the clients as well. And then there is the price. And I'm afraid that if we don't address the price rapidly, we might end up moving from the situation that was 10 years ago, when we thought there is some dependency on the energy supply, to we might get a dependency on material supply. Because if we are not able to keep our industry, and I think that we illustrate it with a lot of examples of where we contribute to the Green Deal, if we are not able to continue producing, then we will have a very serious issue.
An important word there from Cédric. We have to remember that materials are not so easy to produce, and there are these 24/7 furnaces producing. A final word maybe from Bertrand?
No, I mean, I agree with a lot of what I've heard. I think three reflections on the energy crisis from a glass industry point of view. There's the dual aspect of energy savings and energy dependence. I mean, we've heard about the fact that this industry is a continuous process industry, and therefore we need to make sure that it is guaranteed supply so the industrial assets is not endangered. But that's great, but it can be guaranteed and done only if we stop wasting energy where we actually can save it. And so, I mean, I'm going back again to the building sector as an example. I know it's not easy. I know not everything can be delivered overnight. Yes, there needs to be support, but we have to get there, because otherwise we will never have enough energy, maybe, as Cedric said, not this winter, but the next one. The second reflection is on cost. Again, you know, high energy costs drive high production costs, they drive inflation, so it's making things difficult. We have to tackle that. I mean, when we talk about gas, something has to be done. For an industry so dependent on gas, the lack of predictability on gas prices over the long term is a fundamental problem to plan investments, including the decarbonization ones. On electricity, this injustice that the glass industry is one of the very few energy-intensive industries that is not compensated for its indirect cost under the EU ETS, I mean, that has to stop. The electricity cost for industry are skyrocketing, and yet we're not entitled to any of that support. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The third reflection is, indeed, those high energy costs, they generate high production costs, they generate large influx of imports. And we start witnessing that in some glass sectors. High increase in imports of glass products from outside Europe, and over the very short middle term, that could be endangering our industry. And that, again, is potentially weakening those investments to make sure that our industry contributes fully to that climate neutral future that we want. So we have to be very careful of what's happening also in terms of trade flows. So I guess the three solutions are energy efficiency savings, green energy, the availability of it, and of course continue paying attention to the industrial competitiveness.
Thank you for those words of warning. Do we have a question or maybe a reaction or a comment from the audience on some of what you heard? Because we're talking about quite deep industrial transformations, and I'm just wondering if there might be any feedback from the audience. A question or a comment? No? You're good? I know that we're running a little bit late, so please can you join me to warmly thank our 4 panelists for having shared these insights. Thank you so much to the 4 of you.